Hello viewers and welcome to another episode of Trashtalk on Flying Circus, where I talk about the planes in the book. In this episode, Shamsher Interceptor, from the Skyborn playbook. In the years before the Great War, it's outright illegal to trade anything besides trinkets and garbage with Skyborn convoys in most part of the world. For many Skyborn, this was the lowest point of their time, and it made procuring aircrafts almost impossible. But, the Skyborn and towns in Gotha soon developed a scheme. The town would stage crashes, write off the engines, sell the scraps to the Skyborn, the government would then replace the plane, the town would get paid, and the Skyborn could now build an aircraft. Their first designs resembled Arntwerke C-series the engines were taken from, but using traditional airship building techniques, and the Shamsher was the most common of these designs, protecting Skyborn convoys through the Great War with their pneumatic guns. Now, they are obsolete, but Skyborn throw nothing away, and the Shamsher are now adapted to mount rockets for use against pirate airships, grounder defenses, and, sometimes, rival convoys. So, from its stat, it's quite clear that the Shamsher is a rather slow dogfighter, but a very good one. This time though, I will talk about its equipment first because they impacted its performance quite a bit. With a rotary engine, and wing warping, the Shamsher is an amazing dogfighter at around 15 speed and below, plus 2 bonus to dogfight move is just too good. It needs to be 2, because it only has a single wing-mounted pneumatic light machine gun. Yes, a machine gun that works entirely with compressed air, and honestly, it's not that strange. The oldest existing pneumatic gun dated back to 1580, and throughout 17th and 19th century, people have used air gun in hunting and even warfare, the Girardoni air rifle being the most recognizable example. They have a couple advantages over primitive gunpowder firearm, like being able to be fired in wet weather and rain, discharged more rapidly and being able to be reloaded without standing up, and it doesn't produce muzzle flash, smoke, and is very quiet. This means the shooter won't expose their position, and it's a favorite weapon for some sharpshooter detachment for that reason. And of course, pneumatic gun, by its design, doesn't need gunpowder, which wasn't easily manufactured before the Industrial Revolution. Unfortunately, the mechanical complexity of pneumatic gun and the need to pump air manually into canisters, mostly by human power, limited its deployment, and its gunpowder cousin eventually replaced it completely in warfare. For the Skyborn however, using pneumatic gun makes perfect sense. Skyborn are a community of people that literally live in the sky in a convoy of airships. Space are at a premium and storing flammable explosive in your wooden house sounds like a bad idea when you can't exactly run away from it. The solution to pneumatic gun needs for power is simple, just use engine-driven compressor. So how does pneumatic gun work in the book? It's a type of weapon conversion, we will talk about this one day but not now. After conversion, a pneumatic weapon has double the ammo capacity and now fires sharp objects, like blade, which on ammo crit, an additional crit roll upon firing. You can double your damage on any plane as your bullets cut them apart, doesn't work on full metal plane though. You are probably thinking, wow, pneumatic weapon is so good, but there's multiple catches. If you rapid fire with pneumatic gun to increase your hit chance, it automatically jam, as the compressor needs to refill the air. This takes a brief narrative time and you can't fire your gun until it refills. You also cannot fire pneumatic gun if your engine stops, because it depends on it to function. You also cannot use any special ammunition with pneumatic weapon, which can get quite important later on as you have the thaler to spend on them to make your weapons more effective. But, this still means that the pneumatic light machine gun on the Shamsher can sometimes deal double the damage and that's very good. However, it's wing mounted so you need to get closer to the target for it to be effective, which with its rotary engine and wing wrap, should mostly be no problem. And of course, it's not the only weapons armed on the plane too. There's the rocket, which has been used throughout history, first in China in 13th century, then the Mongols after being shot by it, the Ottoman from Mongols after being shot by it, and the European from Ottoman after being shot by it. Rocket has been used as an incendiary weapon ever since then, and it's no wonder when aircraft get invented, someone is going to put some on it too. This is the Leaper rockets, essentially cardboard tubes filled with gunpowder that were ignited electrically to deal with observation balloons and airships. They are somewhat effective at their job, but when tracer and incendiary bullets start being used, they eventually got phased out. It's not the end of rocket armament on planes though, as they eventually get more and more effective at their role in ground attack and so on. In Flying Circus, a basic rocket can deal 15 damage per mass, compared to a machine gun which can deal 8 damage max if you get very close and very lucky. That's a lot of damage, and you can further upgrade it. The problem is you need to get very close for it to even have a chance to hit, but thankfully, against large targets like airships, the range always counts as 2 bands closer, and since you roll to hit roll for each individual rocket, you will hit something eventually with enough rockets. Also, you want to dump the rocket as fast as you can anyway. When you are carrying any amount of payload, your turn bleed gets increased by 1, and your boost, handling, climb, and stall are all worsened, and that's bad for a dogfighter, so just dump it on the biggest target you can find, and then do normal dogfighter thing for the rest of a fight. So, the Shamsher Interceptor is a slow-moving excellent dogfighter packing a big punch, and after releasing its payload of rockets, its stat gets much better. It might not be able to go fast with its low overspeed, its drop-off is so bad that you will almost never use it, but it's sorta reliable, stable, and quite tough for its cheap price. Just seriously, don't try to fight things when the rocket is still on you. 10 stall speed on a plane with 15 max speed and 2 turn bleed is just asking for trouble. But, while it's a cheap plane, there's a reason why it seems to be more expensive than its equivalent counterpart, because this thing has an autopilot. Autopilot is actually invented a mere decade after aircraft is invented in 1912. The earliest examples are gyroscopic autopilot that can control elevators and rudders to keep a plane stable without pilot attention, greatly reducing pilots' workload. You don't see them being used often in the coming World War, however, because they are also very expensive, difficult to manufacture, and still very experimental. In Flying Circus, autopilot doesn't just exist, they also come in a wide variety. The Shamsher has a fantastical clockwork autopilot that runs on no power but is capable of following a single simple order like climb, dive, turn, fly to location, and anything simple. This is important because Skyborn's moves allow them to equip magical wingsuit to jump off their plane, fly to an enemy plane, kick their ass off the plane, and then fly back to their plane. By having their plane to move at a steady dive, a Skyborn can leave and return to their plane because wingsuit, while being magical, cannot generate lift of their own and thus cannot climb, most of the time. This also makes fighting border or repairing the plane much safer because the autopilot can also keep the plane from rolling and spinning on its own. This unfortunately came at a big cost of $6, practically 25% of the plane's cost, but well worth it if you use it to its fullness. The Shamsher also has Zeppelin hook, which allows it to dock at any airships or larger flying vessels easily. In real life, various projects involving parasite fighters were developed ever since the invention of aircrafts, and they all failed, every last one of them, because the pilot will almost inevitably crash into the motherships, or the hook just plain failed and the plane fell straight to the ground. Aerial refueling eventually replaced parasite docking entirely. In Flying Circus, Zeppelin hook just works because apparently, everyone knows how to fly, especially Skyborns that have to dock their planes back at their home airships. On the other hand, land vehicular accident counts are probably way higher than it should be in Himmelgard. As for the variations of the Shamsher Interceptor, since every Shamsher is most likely made by hand, practically every Shamsher can be different from each other. Bigger engine, longer wing, different armament, no wing warp, anything is possible, as long as your GM allows it. And that's all on the Shamsher Interceptor, a fun little scout that packs one big punch that works only one time. Anyway, that's all for this episode, and I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.